Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Tracy Cook. I'm the Online Media Manager for modernanalyst.com, the premier community for business analysts. I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar entitled Modern Requirements Lifecycle Management with Microsoft Office and TFS. Today's featured speakers are Bob Salveson from eDev Technologies, Asif Sharif, also from eDev Technologies, and Aaron Bjork from Microsoft. The webinar today will last approximately 60 minutes, including the question and answer session at the end. Please be sure to submit your questions in advance using the question feature of the GoToWebinar software. I'd also like to say thank you to Microsoft and eDev Technologies for sponsoring today's webinar. And at this time, I will turn it over to Bob. Thanks.
Thank you, Tracy, and welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We hope that you find this presentation valuable, and we really hope that you'll find the occasion to say wow to yourself at least one time during the presentation. We call our suite the Modern Requirements Suite because it provides a lot of automation to the requirements lifecycle process, and it provides visualization to help validate the solutions. It gets users away from the cutting and pasting of the mundane tasks within Office and lets you focus on what you're really trained to do, and that's elicit, collaborate, and analyze requirements. After this quick intro, I will turn the presentation over to Aaron, and he will present Microsoft's perspective on requirements lifecycle management. Then I'll provide a quick overview and share some outcomes that you might be able to expect from our tool. And then Asif will do the demonstration of the suite. And of course, we'll have time at the end to answer questions, so please feel free to enter those in the question bar. Given that most of you are requirements analysts, this question may seem a little bit redundant. However, the numbers that are shown here are really shocking and have been shocking for many years. It really shows that requirements lifecycle management needs to be and is a strategic activity for any organization that develops products today. Get it right, and you can create a sustainable competitive advantage. Get it wrong, and you release products that simply just miss the mark. When we're talking to clients today, most organizations share with us that they are moving to more of an agile requirements methodology, and they want to deliver business value more quickly. However, many of these clients are really constrained by internal processes for project funding. Perhaps some of them are also constrained by reporting to their regulators. And what we see quite often is this overlap that we call hybrid processes, where people today develop their requirements more in a structured manner, and then once they're done, develop, test, and deploy the solutions following agile methodologies. So we call this hybrid or wagile. So in order to help us understand the audience a little bit, we have this polling question that we would like to share with you. We'd like to understand what is the predominant requirements definition methodology that your organization uses today. So is it agile, is it more structured waterfall, or is it wagile? So I'll take a moment and let Stacy post this question and let you respond. We're getting a fair amount of response. I'll give you a couple more seconds and then we'll close out the poll. But what we're seeing here is over 50% of the hybrid methodology, followed by 30% of waterfall and 17% structured. So we will close the poll, and thank you very much for your contributions, and let's move forward. So the requirements lifecycle management solution that we will be collectively describing today supports all of these methodologies. The foundation is Microsoft's Team Foundation server that Aaron will expand upon. And many of the functions, particularly supporting the structured and hybrid type methodologies, are performed within EDEV's Modern Requirements suite. And it takes you through all of these particular functions if you're following a waterfall methodology, and automates all of those. If you're following more of an agile methodology, I suggest that you focus on the parts where that are highlighted in blue, the various shades of blue, because the suite certainly supports agile planning and prioritization, as well as reporting and review and approval. And we have many clients using the agile methodology in our suite today. We offer a lot of flexibility when deploying our solution. It can be deployed on site, or it can be deployed online using Microsoft's Azure cloud service, which is the world's second largest cloud service, and it's deployed in 24 centers around the globe. We also uniquely offer the flexibility of how you want to deploy this. You can start very simply using our Smart Office plugins and simply extend the Office application that you have today to really shorten your learning curve. Or you can deploy it as a complete web solution and benefit from all of the functions in the web solution. Many clients, however, choose to deploy a combination of both. So you have the choice, and this allows you to adopt the tool to your current process, and as your process matures, add more components as you go along. So at this point, I would like to turn it over to Aaron, and he will provide Microsoft's perspective.
Thanks, Bob. Great to be here on the phone with everyone. And I want to start by just saying and reiterating that we've got a very strong partnership with Bob and Asif and the folks at eDev Tech. They have been a strategic and preferred partner of ours for a number of years. And we really believe firmly that their solutions, the eDev Tech products, really enhance the requirements gathering and management capabilities of Team Foundation Server and Visual Studio Team Services. And so much so that they have recently been included as a benefit for all MSDN enterprise users, and of course can be found in our galleries online in the Visual Studio Gallery and as well in the Azure Marketplace and Visual Studio Marketplace. Now, as Bob mentioned earlier, TFS is an ALM lifecycle management tool. ALM stands for Application Lifecycle Management. And while we know that many people think about this as a process for developers, it's not. It's really a process for your entire team. And one of the key aspects that I want to highlight of that is that while TFS has great scenarios for sharing code, running builds, and releasing, what I would call engineering functions, it also has a very rich set of capabilities that facilitate team collaboration through the lifecycle of a feature. And that includes requirements management and requirements gathering. Now, we like to think about this as building software is somewhat of a team sport. And it's not just for single teams, but it's very often for teams of teams. And these teams include much more than just your engineers. They include product owners, they include business analysts, they include project managers, operations, the full gamut. Now, one of the powerful aspects of TFS is that it supports flexibility in your approach to building software. And as Bob, I think, highlighted in the poll earlier, we've got lots of different approaches. There are more traditional approaches. There are more agile-based approaches. And there are even what we call just completely custom-based approaches. It's key to understand that Team Foundation Server and Visual Studio Team Services support all of these. We're not trying to push a process or methodology onto your customers or you. Instead, it's about allowing you and your team to facilitate an approach that suits your culture, your environment, and your market. And I think you'll see Asif talk about this a little bit later as he talks about the eDev tech products. Now, before I hand things back to Bob, I want to quickly show you a few of the newer things that are inside Team Foundation Server and Visual Studio Team Services that you might not be aware of. So I've switched over here to my web browser, and you'll notice in the top left that I'm showing you an instance of Visual Studio Team Services. To be really transparent, this is our own instance inside Microsoft that we use to build the product. So this is as real as it gets. This first capability that I'm showing you is a capability that we released late last year, and it's all about dashboarding. Dashboards are 100% composable canvases that allow you to bring data into a surface that you can bring your team together with. That includes charts, it might include some level of documentation, it might include links to other things, queries. All kinds of data can be gathered and pulled together into these rich canvases that we call dashboards. So that's a great feature that you'll find inside Visual Studio Team Services. The other feature that I want to highlight for you is our increasingly improved board capability. Now what you're seeing here is a Kanban board that I use to manage 6 different teams that I look after. Let me full screen this so you can see it maybe a little bit better. This Kanban board has custom columns that I've created myself. It has custom definitions of done that I've added right here onto the board. I can clearly move things around on the board, reprioritize them. I can drill in for more detail. And I can even have rich conversations with folks about items on the board. So you can see here that I can respond to Ewald, who's on my team, and thank him for the information that he's provided right here in line in the work item. These work items support rich descriptions and, of course, linking to rich artifacts, including specs, PowerPoint files, and whatever other artifacts that you might have for your work items. And finally, you'll notice that we've included a lot of rich capabilities that allow you to do conditional formatting, which allows you to bring color and life to your boards to make sure that you're finding the things that really matter to your team. Now again, I wanted to quickly show this to you because I wanted to highlight that this is a part of application lifecycle management, but it's really not the developer part. This is the team part. And this is where everybody in your team, including the product owners, business analysts, can come together and collaborate in a rich way on the work that your team is doing. Now, Bob, I'm going to hand it back to you. Talk a little bit more about eDev tech products.
Thanks, Aaron. So now I'd like to tell you a little bit about what eDev has been up to for the last 16 years, and that's really focusing on requirements lifecycle management. We're quite well known in the industry and really cherish our partnership with Microsoft. TFS forms the foundation of our solution and provides tremendous requirements functionality. For those companies that use TFS today, this is making a lot of sense. For those that may be new to TFS as a platform, look at it as the requirements database. It provides all of the capabilities that you would expect in a requirements tool that are shown here at the bottom. And for some companies, TFS by itself is a sufficient tool to manage requirements. However, if you work with documents or diagrams today, if you wish to add visualization or models to your requirements to provide greater clarity, or if you need to create traceability or baselining reporting for your regulators and want to manage the review process, then the Modern Requirements Suite is really for you. Here I've shown the best practices that clients have shared with us that have really driven the automation and the productivity gains that they expect. And we've categorized these into authoring, validating, and reviewing. I've also added in blue the new capabilities that we are introducing today and will show you in the presentation. And we will be releasing these shortly later this month. So I'd like to take you on a quick tour of the suite prior to the demonstration to give you a sense of how the suite really supports the requirements lifecycle process. So we'll start with the highlighted areas here. And for process analysis, you can take any type of diagram or any type of model created outside of the tool that's in Visio compatible format and bring it in, or you can create these models within the tool, and then you can link requirements to the shapes and connectors right from within this user interface, creating a very integrated view of requirements. From a definition perspective, you can author requirements online, or you can author requirements simply using Microsoft Word. And given that the vast majority of people today use Word, this is a very simple approach. You can create reusable templates that contain images, rich text, tables, and save those and author right from within Word and save the granular content as work items or requirements in TFS. Collaboration is absolutely essential in any successful requirements process. And our Modern Requirements Suite provides you with many different ways to collaborate. You can collaborate right from within Word. We have a free Word reviewer license that you can provide to all of your stakeholders, and they can continue to provide their edits right from within Word, also adding feedback and discussion on the right-hand side here, right from within the Word UI. So it's very easy to use. You can also collaborate using Microsoft Outlook, and you can collaborate online in the web interface as well. With use cases, if you use use cases in your process, you again have two ways of doing that. In the Visio interface that I showed you previously, you start with a model and generate requirements from the model. In this interface, you start from text and generate a model. So whichever way is the way that you're most comfortable with in your process, the suite supports that. With visualization, we offer a very rich wireframing and simulation capability that produces HTML5 output. Traceability, of course, is essential to any requirements process, and you can trace any requirement or work item to any other within the tool. For example, requirements to defects or test cases to defects, and show them in this user interface, and also create and break links as you wish. Managing change is also an essential component of any process, and the baselining capability within the suite allows you to take a snapshot of the state of requirements at any point, let's say here at the end of Release 6, and generate a difference report when comparing it to the current state. A great auditability feature. And finally, the approval process. With the new review management capability, you can manage review packages and see how your reviews are going, and each reviewer online can accept or reject the requirements that you have passed to them for approval. So in this way, we cover the entire RLM process within the suite. The beauty of the suite is that it can be used by all participants within the project, not only by attaching their documents and diagrams, but by actually taking the granular content within those documents and diagrams and saving that granularity to the requirements database or TFS. We do work with clients in many industries around the world, both in the public and in the private sector. We have thousands of clients using our tool. And here's just a sample listing of some familiar brands that we'd like to share with you. Some of the outcomes that you can expect that clients have shared with us are listed on this page. And the first one is improved efficiency or team productivity. Most clients realize anywhere between a 30 to a 50% improvement, allowing you to achieve more with your current resources. And that productivity is realized through reuse of requirements, through the automatic generation of documents, through the automatic generation of test cases, all of which contribute to that very substantial improvement. Collaboration becomes frictionless, and stakeholders can respond online or to Word documents, and you reduce the response times and therefore improve the project speed. Auditability is a natural outcome of using the suite. And then finally, by adding the visualization, clients have realized substantially less rework because the stakeholders understand what they're asking for up front through the screens, and that has resulted in some clients having up to a 10-fold rework reduction because they get it right the first time. And of course, we provide professional services that are really focused on the success of our clients, and we wrap those around the Modern Requirements Suite to really understand your current situation, your current processes, help you to define what the to-be process might look like, and then provide training online or on-site, any configuration, and ongoing coaching. So at this point, I hope that I've created a good foundation of understanding of what our suite is, and I will turn this over to Asif, who will demonstrate the tool.
Thank you, Bob, and good afternoon or good morning if you're from the West Coast. I've shared my Visio screen. Hopefully, all of you can see that. What we'll begin with is process analysis, and in fact, we'll start with my favorite module of our suite. Now, what often people do is that they'll create a process, and then they will create the requirements to support the, say, to-be process. And that activity is disjointed. They'll either create the process and then write a Word document, or they'll create the process and they'll go and create the requirements or user stories in TFS. What we've done is we have integrated the function of creating the process, whether it's a BPMN model, an activity diagram, a swim lane, or any other type of diagram that Visio supports. Now, what you can do is you can create your work items directly in Visio, where you are linking requirements to shapes or to connectors. You can, in so doing, define your work item decomposition, your requirements decomposition, directly in Visio. You can also click on Show State Overlay to see where the requirements are linked, or user stories, or PBIs for that matter. And the colors are actually showing you the state of the work item that that particular work item is in. So we can see that there are multiple work items linked to different shapes and connectors, but there are others which are perhaps suspects. So we should deal with that. And so what I'm going to do now is to go to login, create a requirement, say system shall allow users to log in, and leave it at that, put in a description and fill out any other fields as necessary, and click Save. Now, what this does is basically creates requirement work item and connects it to that particular shape. So that's the fundamental value of Smart Visio. You can leverage all your existing knowledge and build on that knowledge directly within the tool, within Visio, to define your features and epics and stories and PBIs and requirements as need be. The second thing you can do is you can actually have the system generate scenarios. So in this case, the system actually found that there are 3 scenarios, and you can then record those scenarios as requirements or PBIs or user stories, depending on the templates you're going to be using. And it also creates links with the requirements that are covered by that scenario. So if you're doing Agile or Scrum, defining scenarios as 3 different and distinct scenarios is a good idea. However, if you're doing structured requirements and you prefer writing use cases, then you can convert your diagram into a use case simply by selecting a scenario, calling it, let's call this the happy path, call this delayed shipment, and let's call this abort checkout. We'll call our use case purchase processing use case, and that's the narrative of the use case. In fact, I'll mark this as being exception flow, and we can now publish this as a work item in TFS with all the scenarios and the visual as part of that. Of course, you can augment it with all kinds of additional information if you like. What it also does is link all the requirements that are covered by that particular use case. So what really is happening is we're building on what we have. We're defining the requirements, we're defining the scenarios and the use cases, and you can also have the system auto-determine the test cases. And there are actually 3, or in fact 4, test cases that it has detected. 2 of them I've already published. And so this is my 3rd one, where the user will abort checkout, but then continue again and go through the happy path. And so you can record these test cases and have them show up in the system along with the links for the coverage. So it will show you that the test case covers these requirements. Now, since TFS is the back end, it is important to note that we don't have a separate database. TFS is that database. So you don't have to worry about synchronizing data between 2 different systems. It is one integrated system. From process analysis, let's go to working with documents. So one of the things we'll do is we'll take a look at Smart Word, and in Smart Word, I want to generate a specification from the information that we have in TFS. So I've created a template which basically has some placeholders, and whenever I choose to generate a document, all I have to do is to click on refresh. It will go get the data from TFS and organize it in Word in the appropriate way. So we were just looking at this purchase processing workflow in Visio, and all of this content was actually created from within Visio, and here are my scenarios, and so on. This is my use case document, or the use case artifact, and so on and so forth. Okay. So generating documents from within within Word is very easy, and not only can you generate your documents from Word, but you can also make updates to those documents and publish those changes back to TFS so that your information is updated in TFS, which is the system of record. Now, when you publish, you can actually put a comment. Jack said this should be changed, and that comment will get associated with the change that is being made in the database. The other use case of Smart Word is authoring. So when you're authoring, you can use a template, and you can create Word templates, and you can use that template for authoring. So for example, so in this template, this is my BRD with a section for risk, a section which has my features and requirements, and a table for issues. So I'm just going to go and populate this with some information. I have a notepad with the content that I'm going to put in there so that you don't have to see me type. And then we'll publish this information to TFS. And when it comes to description, you can add tables, images. You can format your content as you need to. And let's go ahead and insert a picture in there. Okay. So you can author in Word, and you can do this offline. And so this is pretty much using Word the way you would normally do, but now it's got some intelligence in it to have it be synchronized with TFS. Now you will see that I have these drop downs here like property. This is the configuration in TFS. This is the process template in TFS. We inherit that process template implicitly. So there is no mapping required because it is one and the same system now. And once you have authored and you're ready to publish, you can simply say publish and send this information to the database, and if there is an issue, it'll tell you probability was required field, so we can update that and publish this off to the database. Now, if I were to go to TFS Web Access, this is the query view. You will see that my feature is there and my requirement is there with the image in bold, and so the hierarchies come through and all the information is right there. In fact, you can go and make edits to the information in the web, and Word, which is now out of sync, you can simply click on refresh and get your document updated with what is in TFS. So now we have the same information available in Word as we did in TFS. So your documents are never out of sync. The last use case for Smart Word is collaboration. So you can do discussion as well as request and get feedback using Word. So you could select a given requirement in Word, and then say, I love Smart Word, give it a 5-star, submit your feedback, and this feedback will now be available to others to review it and act upon it. Of course, if you've set up a trigger, which you can in TFS, then an alert would be sent out to the appropriate stakeholders that a feedback has been provided on a requirement. So that's a Smart Word. Again, 3 main use cases: authoring, reporting, and collaboration. We have recently implemented auto tagging, where you can reverse engineer your existing documents in an automated fashion. as opposed to how you would have to do before was to manually tag it. Now it's got intelligence to auto tag existing documents. So let's talk about use cases. So we saw in Smart Visio that you can generate use case based on your process model. So clients came to us and they said, what if you could let us type our use case, in turn you give us a visualization. So we created the use case editor. Now in the use case editor, you basically create your scenarios and description, and we in turn create the diagram for you. And you can analyze the diagram in different ways. So you can say, just show me the hat tip path, or show me everything in color coded. You can drill down into lower levels or extension use cases. So this is my authentication use case. And the idea in this thing really is that it's a text to diagram as opposed to in Smart Visio, the other way around. The other thing that you deal with is you're looking at the system shows login screen, that I want to actually be able to define my login screen. So how do you define my UI? So we have two different constructs to support that. One, we have what we call a scenario, and scenario is a inter-screen navigation design. So you can sort of lay out your application and show what the navigations are. And the other is the mockup. Now what the mockup does is basically allows you to create a UI based on a variety of different widgets that you can use to create that UI. Okay. The UI tool supports not only elementary controls like text box and buttons and labels and so on, but controls like this one, where you have tabs or accordions and so on and so forth. You can also create rich UI by adding images and other background elements to it. You can also create what do you call work items, your requirements and so on against the page or the various elements in that page. So you have this ability to create your requirements in this view and also have to have discussion and get feedback from people. So the mock-up area really is both at a macro level and a micro level at the lowest level. The other thing that of course a requirements management system needs to provide for is traceability. So what you can do is that you can create a variety of different types of traceability matrices. And I have an example of a couple here. I'll go full screen there. And what you have here is I've got my requirements there, my test cases there, and this is where the links exist. Now in the traceability matrix, we can break links as well as make links. So I could go and delete that link if I wanted to, and I can also go and create new links as I need to. Okay. So some of you who are already our clients had requested this feature, so this is a brand new feature we've added, is the ability to create and break links directly in the traceability matrix. Now, you'll see that the UI is pretty consistent, is generally consistent with the TFS Web Access UI. And in fact, we are working with Microsoft to incorporate our UI into VSTS. So soon, both VSTS, which is the online version of TFS, will have our entire web suite available as part of VSTS. And shortly thereafter, you will also have this on-prem. So if you deploy it within your networks, you will also have this available. So, and that's the reason we have kept the UI to be reasonably consistent with what you see with TFS. So other than what I showed you with Word and Visio, everything I'm showing you is web-based, browser-based. One of the other things that people require is baselining. So they want to be able to baseline work items. And so what this is going to show you is that I've got a baseline here with multiple requirements and bugs that I've baselined. I can, for this particular requirement, go and compare it to some other revision of the work item and see how things evolved over time. I can also compare the entire baseline to the current state of TFS. So here, all of these requirements have actually changed. You can generate a difference report and use that for either your audit purposes or for creating release notes. So you can generate difference reports. You can also compare a baseline not only to the current state of the requirements database, that is TFS, but you can compare it to other baselines and see how things change between those two baselines. So if you baseline release 1 and then release 2, now you can tell what actually got changed between the two. There are various scenarios in which we support reuse. One of the good things is that you can, in TFS, you can link requirements across projects or work items across projects. You can also copy individual requirements, or you can actually create a library of specifications and reuse those specifications from within the baseline tool. And it doesn't have to be the current specification of the current state, but you could have taken a baseline at a point in time and reused it because that has established some quality standards. Lastly, I'll talk about review management. So in review management, what you have is the ability to send review requests to people, and folks can in turn provide feedback, accept or reject the various changes. And in so doing, you are able to get feedback. And so really, the idea here is that you can choose who do you want the feedback from, give it some review name, and then you can choose which work items do you actually want to get feedback on. You can choose a due date, and then you can preview it and send off that email. Of course, in turn, people get an email, and then they can come back online and provide their feedback. So folks, in summary, what we have looked at is all the way from starting to do your business process analysis, elicitation of your requirements, definition of requirements in Word or reporting in Word, and of course collaboration in Word, and then moving back to the web to do trace analysis, simulation, and use case editor functionality, baselining, and review management. In TFS, there is this work item management, backlog management area. There's the Kanban board that I haven't covered today, which obviously is extremely valuable functionality where you can look at your various requirements and organize them as hierarchies and in a more conventional view. And you can sort of drag and drop things up and down to order them. You can drill down on these as need be. There are multiple levels. Epics, features, requirements is the standard view for the CMMI template. The Azure template is Epic, feature, and user stories, and the Scrum template is Epic, feature, and PBIs. Of course, these templates are configurable based on what you need, and the Kanban board, and of course, all of these are highly evolved tools today, and they're evolving quickly. And I think that's one of the great values of the Microsoft EDEV partnership is that you've got one team at Microsoft doing a lot of the foundational work, and then EDEV is concentrating on the requirements management practice areas. So we're certainly looking very much forward to getting the whole of Integrate for TFS directly in the Microsoft UI embedded. And I think you will like the fact that it is one completely integrated UI. The only difference right now is that there are two different tabs you have to go between. Other than that, there is one integrated single backend. The one quick thing I will mention is that extensibility exists both on the TFS front and the Integrate for TFS front, which is this UI, where you have the ability to access the data using REST API, web services for the legacy interface. So both these environments are scalable, and you can create other integration points beyond what already exists. And many integration points already exist in the marketplace today. So with that, I will hand it off to Bob to take us through the various questions that we have been asked.
Thank you, Asif. There have been quite a few questions posted, and we've answered some of them, so we'll take the next 10 minutes to go through the rest of them. Ray asks, which TFS template is being used in the Visio example? Asif, can you answer that for Ray?
Yeah, so in Visio, the project that I created for this demonstration was a CMMI project, or rather a project based on the CMMI process template. But you can use any template, CMMI, Agile, Scrum, Agile at Scale, or even a completely customized version of process template that you might be using.
Thank you. The next question is, do I need to buy the whole suite for everyone? And I'll answer that one. No, you don't. The beauty of the suite is that you can buy various components and really fit the tool to the role within the project that the person is fulfilling. The next question is, how is the suite priced? Again, I'll take that one. The suite is priced on a user-based perpetual license. A floating license is another option. We also offer subscription pricing, and of course for larger volume site or enterprise pricing. There were a number of questions surrounding integration with other systems. Jira was called out a couple of times, and yes, we do sell and support a synchronization bridge that has either bidirectional or unidirectional connectivity with a variety of other applications. Jira is one of the more popular ones, HP, various IBM products, so that you can create synchronization both ways to incorporate other products that may be in your ALM suite. Of course, TFS natively supports integrations with Excel for authoring, PowerPoint, Project, and SharePoint. So all of the Microsoft Office and Office-like tools are supported in the suite as well. Another question was what type of training is required for the system, and that really depends on which parts of the system you want to implement, but the training is provided online. We have about 16 different courses that range from 60 minutes to 120 minutes each that are provided online and recorded. So usually user training for the whole suite will take a couple of days. There's another question, would everyone on the team need a license to be able to collaborate? And that's a great question. There are a few ways in which you can collaborate. One would be to use Smart Word Reviewer, and that is a free license for anyone on your team, and they can create a discussion, provide feedback right within the Word UI, and also redline the document as they do today. There is no license required. They simply provide that and send it back to the originator. TFS also has something called a stakeholder license, which is again provided at no cost by Microsoft, and people can click on email links to review a package of requirements that's sent to them and provide their comments and approve or reject a particular package. Again, no license is required for that. It's, well, no cost license. It's a free stakeholder license. What are some of the other questions here? Yeah, there was a question about using Smart Office for TFS, and is Integrate for TFS new? Integrate for TFS was first released last fall with the baselining capability and a simulation capability, and we continue to add modules to it, like the traceability module, the use case editor, and the review management module, and more modules will continue, making a complete web solution a possible reality for you as well. So the two complement one another. Smart Office can be implemented by itself. Integrate TFS as a web solution with TFS can be implemented by itself, or together they form what we call today the Modern Requirements Suite. There was a question about doing a detailed demo. Yes, if you email me, and my contact information is on the screen here, we would be happy to set up a follow-on demonstration for anyone who's interested in delving into specific features of the suite. I also would suggest that you look at the evaluation software on our website and download whichever is of interest. We also have lots of videos under the Get Started section showing you step-by-step how to perform certain functions. And again, there was a question about how do you integrate with TFS, and the answer to that is really we're not integrated but unified with TFS. Our solution is uniquely built on TFS, and we use it as the application server. So everything is saved natively to TFS as a work item or requirement work item. So there is a lot less management overhead if you're trying to synchronize various servers together. ours requires no overhead in that sense because everything is saved natively in a unified solution. There's a question about UI creation, and I'll send this over to Asif. Does this tool have standard UI objects?
Yes, it does. There is a full library of objects that are available. Of course, you've got the standard controls, but then you have JavaScript controls like menus and tabs and accordions and rich text fields and so on and so forth. The one thing that there was another question on was how does linking show up? So it's really, the linking shows up like this where work items are linked against this page. So you can see this work item is linked against the page, or you can have work items linked against individual elements. And you can also have discussion where you can have references to work items within the discussion, or refer to people in within the discussion as well. Oh yeah, just one other quick thing, and not only can you have use the standard controls, but you can also use predefined components that you might have built, and either use what's out of the box libraries or create your own library of controls so that you can build on existing themes and styles.
Thank you, Asif. There is another question, again for you, talking about how easy it is to edit templates. Would I create a template from within the Office app and then be able to edit it?
Yeah, so creating templates, we created a wizard as part of SmartWord, and you basically use that wizard to define your template. So it's relatively straightforward. There are also out-of-the-box templates that are available, so that instead of starting afresh, you can always begin with one of the existing templates and then sort of build on it. But it's a pretty straightforward exercise on how to build templates.
So we only have time for one or two more questions. I want to respect everybody's schedule, and we will answer all of the other questions that have been asked privately in emails. So there was one question about traceability, and can the traceability table between work items be done across TFS projects or just within a single team project? And I'll pass that to
the traceability is based on two things. So you can create traceability either based on a work item selection, in which case it is based on that project. But if you create it based on queries, then it can be created across projects. So yes, you can create traceability matrix across projects.
And then there was the last question is, can we import our existing use cases and generate the model from those? And I'll ask Asif to answer that.
So in the way that Visio allows you to convert, so in Visio you can take any diagram and create your use cases from it. If it is textual use case that you have, you would need to recreate that particular use case in the use case editor. And of course, you can do copy and paste of the content, but there are things like you can go to a point in your step and you can say, I'm going to do a branch, and then provide an alternate scenario name, and then flush it out here. So there are places you might have to do some activities but I think a lot of it can be copied and pasted.
Okay, well, thank you all. And we've kind of run up against the top of the hour, so we will respond to all of the other questions that have been posed via emails.
Excellent, Bob. Thank you very much. Bob, Asif, and Aaron, that was a great webinar today. A lot of great questions were asked. I'd like to thank everyone for attending today's Modern Analyst webinar. This webinar, including the video of the recording as well as a PDF of the PPT, will be posted to our website at modernanalyst.com within 2 business days. I'd like to thank our speakers and our sponsors today and our attendees for joining us. And this concludes today's webinar. Have a great day.